Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, as you can see on the screen, we are going to be doing our predictions for the upcoming event that's coming up here this week, the final regular season week of Stage 4, where we'll have our seeding decided for the final major, where a couple teams, like the bottom four, Paris Surge, London, LAG, they're going to have their final chance to make a huge run and try to get in that top 3 or top 4 or something to gain points to have a chance to make a run at possibly getting that 8 seed in the major, because it's getting down to the wire. If they don't make a run now, they're not going to do it, so it's getting down to the wire for them. But please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And without further ado, we will get into it. But, I mean, as I'm sure you guys know by all the news and stuff that came out today, there's roster news that we'll get into a little bit later, but we're going to start with kind of the story of today on a much sadder note. Not nearly as excited to talk about this because I wish it wasn't happening at all, but obviously today, as I'm recording this, just got home from work. While I was on eating my lunch, I watched the Huke video. I wasn't able to catch like the last few minutes, but I saw the gist of it. I saw like 29 of the 32 minutes, and it honestly made me pretty sad. I think that's probably a pretty normal reaction that most of you had. The video made me pretty sad. If you haven't watched it at all, I would highly recommend checking it out. He kind of goes into mental health while competing, the toxicity in the Call of Duty community, his struggles with Adderall abuse, going all the way up to last year's champs, as well as kind of how the Empire team kind of crumbled apart, and then what happened when he got to LA Thieves. So just to kind of summarize, if you haven't seen it, or to kind of like reiterate what he said and then offer my thoughts on it. He kind of started the video talking about what happened with Dallas Empire, and he detailed how last year at Champs, after he won the winning moment, like he was reflecting and like it didn't feel as satisfying to him. Like he thought, like obviously you would think, I mean, you've been working your whole life. He's been working hard his whole life to become one of the best Call of Duty players. And he just won a world championship. Like, regardless of if it's online or LAN, like at that moment when you win a world championship, you're like, I'm a world champion. Like, obviously you're going to be super excited. But like he said, he wasn't necessarily that excited about it. Like, wasn't as excited as he thought he should be. And he was laying in bed thinking about like the first time he won in Halo when he was 16. And he was like, that feeling was just something so amazing. He wasn't using Adderall at the time or anything, I believe he said. And he was like, I won. It's just amazing. It's awesome. It's a great feeling. And when he compared it to his champs win, which money-wise is bigger, I mean, recognition-wise is bigger, and overall is probably the bigger win compared to like a small Halo tournament that he won back in the day. He's like, I should feel a lot happier, but I just don't. And that's when he talked about how like he felt weird about the win and that he was using Adderall and it was kind of affecting his mental health, and he was angrier at times. His relationships were being affected by it. And then in the off season, he had the strength to decide that he was going to try to get clean. And that didn't just include like stopping the use of Adderall. That included like healthier eating and drinking more water, and just a better, healthier lifestyle overall, which is awesome to hear. Obviously, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, any substance abuse is like a serious topic that needs to be taken seriously. I mean, I've seen it affect plenty of people in my life. Don't want to get into too many personal stories, obviously, because this isn't about me. This is about the stuff that's going through the Call of Duty League and Huke's video. But I've seen plenty of people, friends, close family go through addiction struggles or substance abuse struggles, and it's tough. It's tough on anyone. I personally have never gone through anything like it myself, but I can't imagine it's easy at all. That's why people struggle with it so much and struggle with addiction and substance abuse. So for him to come out and talk to it obviously takes a lot of strength too, because it's not something that's easy to share. But there's always been a stigma in the Call of Duty community that so many players are using Adderall. It's kind of always been like people joked about it, which is kind of tough, but it was always like, oh, this guy's using Adderall, this guy's using Adderall, and Slasher's always been kind of a big proponent of we need to drug test because people are out here using Adderall, and he has always been somebody that has said he's never used it, and he thinks the playing field isn't fair because people are taking literally like these performance-enhancing drugs. So yes, it is scary, and I think it needs to be addressed by the CDL. I'm disappointed that the CDL, like Hecz said, was supposed to have like a zero tolerance policy and was really supposed to test for it, and they just really haven't done anything about it, and they've been quiet about it and haven't mentioned it at all, so that's disappointing to me. But when talking about his Dallas Empire like crumble, I was also very disappointed. Now, obviously, this is only one side of the story, so we can't 100% say like everything he said about the team. Obviously, his Adderall abuse, we're not going to question that at all. We're not going to question his thoughts on that, but his time with the Dallas Empire, obviously, like the other 3 players probably have a side to the story with how the team changes went down and stuff, because he was the one dropped. So maybe he's a little like pissed about it, as he should be. but we can't 100% say it's fact for the team change stuff, because obviously, I mean, there's two sides to every story, so it could be the case where maybe it's not completely what happened, but based on what we've heard so far, we're going to assume that this is what happened. And I was really disappointed, because in a way it sounded like he was trying to offer his input. His team didn't want to listen. He didn't name any specific names, but I guess he said at least one certain player like called him after a match and was like why are you eating healthy, like questioning why he was like bettering his life, and that's super disappointing to hear. And I thought Pac-Man kind of summed it up well as we get here, and then eventually I guess he basically like tried to tell the team his side of his story when they were talking about getting him dropped. They allowed him to play some more. They played, and then starting, I believe it was stage 2, was it? Or was it the start of stage 3? I can't remember. I believe it was the start of stage 2. He tried to play that opening match against Paris. They win 3-1. He plays pretty well. And then after the match, they just decided he's being dropped. And then I guess obviously that hurts him because this is his world championship team. He felt like he deserved his spot. He played so well in stage 1. He gets dropped, and then eventually, the whole trade goes down to LA Thieves. He gets to LA Thieves. He's excited for the new opportunity. So he's trying to be the best teammate possible. And then all of a sudden, I guess he gets dropped really quick, and he said he thinks it's because a lot of his teammates had preconceived notions from rumors that people were spreading. He said one of his, I don't know if he said one of his old teammates or somebody in the community, was spreading rumors about him, one of his friends in the community, which I'm assuming is Temp. Obviously, I don't know, but that seems to be his best friend in the community. Maybe it was Temp, maybe it was somebody else. Apparently, they told him that somebody was spreading a rumor that he was on psychedelics, abusing like other drugs and stuff while playing, which, I mean, what kind of terrible human do you have to be to, I mean, first of all, if somebody is struggling with this is where I was thinking, I think it was Pac-Man that said it, and I just said, I was echoed what he said. Like, what kind of terrible human being do you have to be to see your teammate going through something? Let's say he was having struggles with psychedelic drugs, and he was an addict to something like that, and he was struggling with it. What kind of teammate do you have to be to just drop him and then not only not ask him if he's okay and do something about it, but you just have the audacity to just talk behind his back and spread rumors about him doing this stuff when it's not true? Because if you truly think he's falling off the deep end and really struggling with this and struggling with his mental health, and this is really affecting his life and kind of destroying his life, why would you just talk behind his back and not address it and ask him if he's okay, ask him if he needs help with anything, help him get help? Because some people that are going through that stuff, I mean, they don't realize they need help until it's too late, and they're really struggling with it. And sometimes they just need that kick from somebody else to be like, hey, you're struggling with this isn't who you are, we need to help you out. So I agree with Pac-Man, that wasn't the most messed up thing that they spread the rumor. It was more messed up that if they truly believed that was true, they weren't attempting to get him help. It's just mind-boggling to me. And then he moves on to talk about the Adderall abuse in the community and how it can really affect you. And there's so many players. Obviously, he's not going to name names because that's not his business to put other people's business out there. But there's plenty of players that have been struggling with this and dealing with this, and it's just not addressed by the CDL. And then he's talking about mental health and how that's a stigma, and basically if you need help with your mental health, it's kind of a toxic thing in the community, and people don't seem to accept it. And that goes all the way back to the whole Feral thing. I mean, with early in the off season, before the season started, Feral's suicide, which was just a horrible thing in the community, and it seemed like the CDL for a day tweeted out suicide prevention hotlines and was talking about the topic, and then for a few weeks there they talked about it, but since then it was okay, Feral committed suicide, so we decided to talk about it, and then they just gave up on talking about it and haven't said anything else. They should be at all the time support. The CDL should always be constantly reminding hey, this is resources for this if you need help. Donate contributions to these foundations that help with that. It's they're so reactionary rather than proactive in a way, and it just saddens me when we have events like this. We have Adderall abuse that's affecting people's lives in the community. We have a suicide that affected obviously someone's life early in the community and affected the whole community, and they seem to talk about it for a day, and now I'm sure they're going to release a statement about Adderall and how they don't tolerate it and they want things to change. But it's they should have done this from day one when they knew it was an issue in the community. They should have just started right away and said, we're going to drug test and we're going to try to get this out of the community, because not only does it help competition, obviously, and fairness, but it also helps these players' lives. And I mean, they're the organization that's employing them. They should be caring about these players' lives. It's just something that really saddens me. I'm really glad Huke Kyler, he posted the video. Obviously, it's hard to talk about, so props to him for posting it. It was good to see it because I think all of us have been questioning a player of his caliber, why he isn't playing and what's going on, and the fact that he's happy makes me happy. I mean, the fact that he's found his peace and cleaned up his life a little bit with the issues he was struggling with, and found his happiness makes me really happy, because I mean, why would I ever want somebody to not be happy, especially when they're cleaning their life up? That's perfect for him, so I'm glad he's finding that happiness. And it was good for him to talk out, and like when people were basically like in the community, you were hearing that he was a selfish player, and all these things happened. And it's good to hear his side of it, because I mean, I can't think of anything worse. I would be so frustrated as a player if my name was constantly being slandered and it just wasn't the whole story. So overall, my thoughts on the video, something needs to be done in the CDL. They need to address it and strike down on it hard, because people might think they're striking down on it for competition rules, which yes, they are, but it also is for the safety and health of the players, which should be more important than competition. Whether it's substance abuse or obviously the mental health issues and the suicide we saw earlier in the year, that comes far before a person's life, and substance abuse and mental health comes way before any CDL competition. So that's all on the topic, but I hope all of you obviously agree with that. CDL competition is just nothing, and competitive integrity in the CDL is nothing compared to the importance of mental health and substance abuse of the players and anybody that needs to get help. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Obviously, it's a long start to the video, but it's something that had to be addressed, so I wanted to talk about it. Yeah, but now into a lighter note, let's talk about some Call of Duty. Obviously, the one thing we got to touch on, speaking of Huke, is the LA Thieves roster change. At work today, my friend texted me. He says, Slasher and Huke are starting. I'm like, I'm at work. I can't really check that right now. Like, I just texted him back. I said, what are you talking about? Shut up. Because he's kind of a troll friend. I mean, he loves Temp. It's like his favorite player. I mean, he always jokes about how he needs to be subbed in for Seattle Surge. He's nasty, but I mean, obviously he's not that level. But he's just kind of a troll, so I'm just thinking, like, he trolls about rosters and stuff all the time, especially LA Thieves. He trolls about Huke and Slasher and Temp and all those guys a lot, because it's just kind of like a running joke. Like, he just likes to troll about stuff like that. And so I'm like, I mean, that's just fake. I go on Twitter and I see like Salvation's Elite and CDL Intel and a bunch of people talking, and then I see the LA Thieves tweet, which obviously means it's 100% official when LA Thieves is saying it, that the starting lineup for the remainder of Stage 4 or whatever for the major and stuff is Slasher, Kenny, Tej, and Huke. And they were talking about how like veteran leadership coming into LAN is kind of what they wanted, and veteran players who are proven on LAN. And it was super interesting to me. It's just like a weird position to be in, because personally, I think in terms of going back to LAN and the highest ceiling roster, I think this is probably it. Having Huke and TJ, two absolutely disgusting players on the subs. We know they can be big playmakers, and we know TJ is especially a big playmaker in Search. We know Huke can hold his own in Search, but he's just a superstar in Respawn. And then obviously you've got Kenny on the flex. For a map like Apocalypse, I think this could make them disgusting, because on Apocalypse and even Garrison, we see a lot of 3 subs being pulled out. And obviously Kenny's been on the AR for a while, but we know Kenny, if he pulls out a sub, is going to be able to hang with anyone and be one of the best. I think Kenny is back to where he belongs, where he can kind of switch between the two weapons and just play so fast. He can let Slasher do more of the slow it down duties, hold a lot more angles while Kenny pushes up. I mean, if Kenny, Huke, and TJ are pushing you as a team on a map like Garrison or Apocalypse with 3 subs, good luck. I mean, those 3, I guess, are disgusting. I still think Slasher's very good on the AR. I just hope that the team chemistry isn't bad. I think maybe the time off maybe made Slasher realize that the whole general mentality and kind of a lot of yelling maybe isn't the best, because LA Thieves sees a lot of success when he leaves. So maybe he realized, you know what, maybe I'll be more receptive to other people's feedback and not so like my way or the highway. And maybe that'll help them out. Maybe that'll help the team chemistry. I really think that they're going to have a huge end to Stage 4. I mean, maybe I'll be completely wrong. They have a tough week this week. Minnesota and LA are not LA. Minnesota and Optic are not free wins by any means. Looking at their matches here, but I do think they're going to have a pretty big end to the stage, and I think they're going to do well. Obviously, it sucks for Venom and Draza. Neither of them have done anything to deserve to be benched. I mean, I know I wanted TJ in with Huke over Venom, but like Venom doesn't, like, it's not like he just like super deserved to be benched. It was an obvious decision. Like, Venom's been very good this year. He's a very good player who deserves to be in the CDL, and that's why it sucks that there's only 48 roster spots, like I talk about all the time, because Venom deserves to be in the CDL, but they want to try the more veteran leadership. And then Draza. I mean, how unlucky can you get? He comes into the OGLA team last year, is disgusting, helps get them to almost the second weekend in the top 4 in champs. Obviously, they lose that round 11. Then he doesn't get a starting spot this year on the Thieves. Comes in, is arguably one of their best players, looks amazing on that second AR. But I guess if you're bringing Slasher in, Draza has to be the one to go if they decide they're bringing Slasher in, because Kenny is the other AR, and you're not getting rid of Kenny. Obviously, you're not benching him. He's your best player. So yeah, overall with the roster change, I'm excited for it. You guys know I really like Slasher a lot. I really like Huke a lot. I've always liked Huke. I mean, I've always told you that Huke's like one of my favorite players. Huke and Kenny are like 2 of my favorite players in the CDL. They might be my 2 favorite players in the CDL. So obviously I'm really excited to watch this team, and I'm also a huge Slasher fan, and I love Search and Destroy, and I think TJ is one of the best Search and Destroy players ever to live. So if you can't tell, this is a team with a lot of players that I love. I don't necessarily say they're my favorite team. I don't really have a favorite team. But those 4 are certainly 4 of my favorite players, so it's going to be tough for me not to kind of want to watch them succeed and win. But we've been going for 15 minutes here because we had obviously more important things to talk about than pick'ems. But we'll try to speed up the pick'ems a little bit so we can keep this to like a half an hour or under. And we'll get right into the pick'ems now after the whole Huke video news that I want to talk about, and then the LA Thieves roster change. So kind of off the more somber note now. Let's get hyped. Let's do these picks. Yeah, let's get into it. So to start out this final thing, this is technically the LA Thieves home series. Would be a super fun one to be at because I'm sure it'd be really hype and really well done with a nade shot. And I'm sure he'd hire Adam AP to help him run it. It would be a great event, obviously, to go to, but we're still here. No fans for stage 4 or 5. Maybe for champs. Maybe I'll see any of you there if potentially champs is on land and they have fans. But let's get into the predictions. I think last week, I don't know if this is true at all, but it seemed like we saw a record number of 3-0s. There was just 3-0s everywhere. And I think off these first few days, we're going to see a lot more 3-0s. The first match is Ultra versus Gorillas, and I'm going 3-0 to the side of Ultra. I mean, Gorillas are always that team, like I say, every week. They keep matches competitive. They find ways to win maps. They find ways to be in maps. Even if they get 3-0, the hardpoint's going to be close. The search is going to be like a 6-4, 6-5, and then the control is going to be like a 3-1, 3-2. It's going to be close. Or even if it's a 3-0 control, it's going to be close rounds. But Toronto is one of the best teams in the game. They need to get some wins because they did lose to somebody, Florida, I believe. Early on in this stage. Yeah, I believe they lost to Florida 3-2 early on in the stage on that map 5 Miami. So they do need to make sure they get some wins because they do play Subliners later in the week, which, I mean, Ultra's an amazing team, but Subliners are as well. So they could very easily lose to Subliners. So if they end up losing this and lose to Subliners, they finish 2-3. That puts them in extreme danger of finding themselves in the losers bracket, which, I mean, they're going to make champs, but obviously you want to get the best seed possible to get the buys, so they're not going to want to lose this. So they win 3-0. Then the second match, I think I'm going with another 3-0. You guys know I love to pick Seattle in maps, but I think Optic's been very strong in hardpoint, so I think they win that. Optic has also been very strong in search. I think they win that pretty easily. And then, I mean, it doesn't matter how strong Optic is in control, which I think Optic's a pretty average, maybe a little above average control team. They had their struggles in stage 3, but they were struggling and everything. But Surge is just horrendous in control. They've lost, like 10 in a row? They have like 3 map wins, and all of them are on Garrison. They haven't won a raid. Or a, oh my god, why am I blanking? Raid Garrison, checkmate. They haven't won a checkmate or a raid, I believe, this year in control at all. I think they've only won 3 Garrisons. They're like 3-20 or whatever in control, whatever the heck the record is. They're horrible at control. Only way Surge take a map in this series is probably the map 1 hardpoint because they have won enough hardpoints and they've been competitive with teams like Faze. So I think the only way Surge win a map, they come out, take the hardpoint, and then Optic probably wins the search, wins the control, and then wins the hard point. I mean, the only way Surge is winning 2 maps is if they somehow take 2 hard points. That's the only way I can see it going 3-2. Optic wins the search, the control, and the last search. I just don't see a way Surge wins this because I don't think they can beat Optic in control or search. And obviously, you have to beat the team in one of those game modes at one point to win a series because there's 2 searches and a control. But I'm going 3-0 there. Going to the next day, we're going 3-0 again. Subliners 3-0 over Ravens. I always say you need to pick 1 3-0, but lately there have been so many that I got to pick multiple. I think this is another case where you can pick one. Subliner's best hardpoint team in the game. I don't see a way London takes that. Subliner's also a great control team. I don't see a way that London really takes that. There is a way London takes the Surge, because Surge is, once again, usually the most toss-up game mode. That's where, even if there's a team that's way more talented, you have better strats and just get better timings, you can win it. So I think London will be able to keep the control and the Surge very close. I think there's a chance they win 1 map, maybe 2 of the maps in the middle there, but I think even if New York gets down 2-1 after winning the opening hardpoint, they still win the series. But I do think New York's going to be able to take the momentum from starting up 2-0 and just roll it to a 3-0 series win. Then finally, down to the next match, the first match where we're not picking a 3-0, but we're picking a 3-1. I'm going to go Thieves 3-1 over the Minnesota Rocker. To me, I mean, maybe I have delusional confidence in Thieves, and maybe they're going to suck with this roster, but I love Slasher, I love Huke, I love Kenny. I've talked about this already 5 minutes ago, so I don't want to get into it again, but these are players also, when you talk about skill ceilings, I mean, Huke, one of the highest skill ceilings in the league. Kenny, one of the highest skill ceilings in the league. Slasher, in terms of man ARs, has one of the highest skill ceilings, and then TJ. He can be a little up and down, but he has a super high skill ceiling and also brings a lot in search and destroy. Minnesota's a team that struggled in search recently. Minnesota's also struggled in hardpoint. I think the LA Thieves just have more talent. I think they out-talent them in a hardpoint. I think they beat him in a search. I think Minnesota, who's been a good control team, takes the control, and then I think Thieves close it out in the hard point, 3-1. Moving on to Saturday, we're actually going through these relatively fast. I think we have our first game 5 here, and I think it goes the way of London in a 3-2. The reason I go London is because I do think they're a better team. I think they have a higher ceiling than Gorillas, but at the same time, I also think Gorillas are right there with them. I mean, this series just has map 5 written all over it. I mean, now that I said that, though, I mean, Gorillas are probably going to 3-0 them or something since I said it has map 5 written all over it. But this seems like a series that's going to go at least 4 games. It's not going to be a sweep because these are 2 teams that are towards the bottom, but also in terms of our bottom teams are the most consistent recently in being competitive, if that makes sense. Like, Surge are sometimes competitive, and sometimes they literally don't even look like they belong in the CDL because they get 3-0'd a lot. And same thing with Paris. Sometimes they're very competitive. Recently, they've been very competitive, but just a couple weeks ago, they can't seem to even come close to finding a map win. So they're kind of all over the place. But Gorillas are always usually a little competitive. Same with London recently. Despite all the roster changes, they seem to always be at least a little competitive. Even if they're getting 3-0, the maps are close. So for 2 teams that seem to be kind of on the same level, I think it'll be close. But I do think London has a little bit more talent, so they win 3-2. And obviously that match is a must-win for both teams. Both those teams need to win every match they play from here on out because they're trying to make champs. Then the next match is Faze versus Rocker. Another 3-0 coming here. It's pretty hard to not pick Faze to win 3-0 right now. I mean, we saw them win 3-0 against Seattle, which we'd expect, and then we saw them just 3-0 destroy Optic a few weeks back. They think they've lost like 1 map in this stage, maybe. They 3-0'd LA Thieves last week, so it's just, I mean, it's hard not to pick Faze to 3-0, and Rocker have given me no reason why they should win a hard point because they've struggled in that, so I would pick Faze to win that easily. They've given me no reason to believe that they can win a search, and they could win a control, but Faze are just so good at control that I just can't find a way to pick a map for Rocker, so I'm going 3-0. Once again, a lot of these 3-0s, like Gorillas could take a map off Ultra, Surge could take a hard point off Optic, Ravens could take any map off Subliners, probably not a hard point, but maybe a 2 or 3. Rocker could find a way to maybe take a search or a control off Faze, maybe. Like, they could win a map, but I just feel like 3-0s are coming this week. Especially as you get down to the nitty-gritty and teams are really trying to hammer down their stuff for champs so they're in good form. But the final match of Saturday, we've got Empire versus Florida, and this is where it gets to another interesting one. And I think we're going to see another 5-game series, but I'm kind of on the hype train for the Florida Mutineers. So I'm going 3-2 Florida. I think Dallas is improving. I think the team with Vivid is better than the team with Fellow. I don't think it's better than the team with Huke if they were able to figure things out, but obviously we heard that wasn't going to work out. So enough talking about that. But I do think compared to the Fellow roster, I do think the Vivid roster is a little better, simply because I think the roles fit more. I don't know that Illy's really meant to be a flex. He doesn't seem as comfortable on it, but he seems better than he was on the sub. I still don't think Crim's meant to be a main AR. I think he's more of a flex player, but he's the main AR for the rest of the year, so that's how it's going to be. Crim does seem a little more comfortable. He started to play a little better last week. Illy seems a little bit more comfortable. He looks a little bit better. Overall, he had some better flash maps. Shotzzy, he's been playing out of his mind recently, the best we've seen him so far this year. And Vivid seems to be getting a little more comfortable, and I think Vivid can match the pace with Shotzzy. They can play off each other well. I think that allows Illy to speed up a little bit, and I think it allows Crim to have the map more open when his subs are pushing out in front of him, making the correct plays. And he just has been more of a human turret since then, and obviously we know Crim's got a straight shot, and he's going to be a skill level. He can compete with anyone, so he's been playing a little better. I just think the map makes a little more sense for them now. They seem to be getting in their flow, but at the same time, Florida is as well. Havoc seems to be playing a lot better. He seems to know his role in the team. The team seems to overall like mesh better now. They've been looking better in Search and Destroy, which is a big thing. So I do think that the Florida Mutineers come out and take this one 3-2, but I think it's going to be very close. I do think Dallas could certainly win it. They're never a team you can count out. And moving over to Sunday, one of the matches I'm most excited about personally, I think we've got a lot of potential blowouts. I'm obviously really excited to watch LA Thieves in both matches this weekend because I'm excited to see their new roster. But like the Thursday matches, I'll be honest, don't have me that intrigued. I like always watching Surge, so I'm kind of excited for the Surge Optic match. The Friday matches, I'm not really excited for that first one. The second one, I'll definitely be excited for because LA Thieves, new roster, we haven't seen this four together at all. First match on Saturday, nah. Second match on Saturday, Faze is going to dominate, Last match on Saturday, pretty excited for it. But then this first Sunday match, Paris versus Surge. You guys know I like to watch Surge. I like to watch Paris. They're two of my favorite teams to watch, even though they both suck. And the way the CDL is built now, they both have like almost virtually zero chance of making it to champs, which just is so dumb to me. But is what it is. These two teams are playing, and Paris is winning the series 3-1. I'm giving Surge a map because I do think with the way these two teams are built, Surge is going to come out and somehow find a way to win that first hardpoint. I really think it could be a 3-0, though. If Paris wins the first hardpoint, this is a 3-0. I'm just banking on the fact that Seattle's going to be like, okay, we're just getting embarrassed. We're losing every match so bad. I'm assuming Seattle's losing 3-0 to Optic earlier in the week. Or even if they somehow find a way to beat Optic, they're like, this is our run. We got to win every series from here on out. So they're going to be super motivated. I think they're just motivated at this point to not get embarrassed, like I said. But if Seattle doesn't win the opening hardpoint, they're getting 3-0 in my opinion, because I think Paris has been very hot in Surge and Seattle's been ice cold in Surge. I think Paris definitely takes the Surge, and obviously we can never pick Surge to win a control until they finally do it. So we're picking Legion to win the control. We're picking Legion to win map 2 and 3, obviously, and then I think they close it out. Once again, same thing for the Surge. I could see a way they win both hardpoints, but there's just no way they win 2, 3, or 5. So Paris is at worst winning this 3-1 unless we see something crazy. I do think there's a decent chance it's a 3-0, but I'm going to give Surge respect and say they get a map this week. Then another great match. The Sunday matches I'm excited to watch, actually, now that I'm looking at them overall. I mean, Paris, Surge, I'm excited to watch that. And these next two matches are kind of some gauntlet matches that could have impacts on seeding. Obviously, if Toronto and New York both win, I believe that puts New York at an undefeated 4-0, and that puts Ultra at a 3-1. So I think, unless I'm thinking of this wrong, I believe Subliners are undefeated. So this would technically be a battle for 1 seed, unless Mutineers win out, then they'd be 4-1 as well, and they'd have a win over Ultra, but I don't think it goes by head-to-head. It's all messed up. So this could be a battle for 1 seed. Let's say if Florida loses to Empire, then this would be a battle for 1 seed. Subliners win, they go to 5-0, they obviously get the 1 seed. But if Ultra wins, they get it because I believe Mutineers would be 3-2, and then Ultra would be same record as Subliners, and in that case, when it's 2 teams, it would go head-to-head, I believe, so Ultra would get it. So this is going to be an important match regardless, especially if Ultra would happen to lose to LAG or something. This match could be for winner's bracket for them. And this is an interesting one because overall I do feel like Subliners are the better team, but we don't know the whole situation with the Seam. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything if he's been able to get back to, I believe he was in Dallas the whole year pretty much. I think he's stuck in Toronto right now with some visa issues, so I don't know if he's been able to get back. I think that's been affecting him. I think it's just been tough on his mental health also because he's kind of panicking and probably has a lot of anxiety about getting back for the next major because obviously he can't play the next major online because it's on LAN. So if he's unable to get back in, that could really affect Subliners. They're going to have to sub somebody in maybe. I think there's going to be a lot on their mind in this. I think the internet issues for ASIM might not allow him to play as good. And I think Toronto is going to find a way to win this 3-2. This is kind of my bold prediction for the week. I do believe Subliners deserve to be the favorite because I think Subliners are the better team right now. I think Subliners are the number 2 team in the league right now behind Faze. I think there's a decent gap between them and Faze, but I do think they're number 2. And I think Ultra are 3. But for some reason, I just have this feeling that Ultra are going to bounce back strong. ASIM maybe has a little bit of internet issues and not as good a connection that maybe affects his play. And that little bit, that's how close these teams are, that little bit of an effect that it has on him maybe allows Ultra to win this 3-2, but this is a toss-up one for me. I don't even feel right about putting this pick this way, but I'm going bold, so I'm going to keep it. I don't want to switch it, but I don't feel right about it. Subliners, I obviously believe they can win this. I think Subliners can 3-0. I think they can 3-1. I literally think that this series could go 3-0 either way, 3-1 either way, or 3-2 either way. This is like the definition of a toss-up to me. The last series is a tough one to predict because obviously we haven't seen this LA Thieves roster. We don't know how much Slasher's been keeping up with his play. We don't know how much he's been playing. It's Slasher, so I got to believe he's been playing, but who knows? He might be a little rusty if he hasn't been playing a lot of 8s or been playing pubs or anything. But it's also Slasher, so knowing him when he got the idea he could come back, he's probably been grinding, even off stream or just off camera, he's been grinding. It's a tough one to predict, though, because if it was the old LA Thieves roster, I'm picking Chicago to win this probably in the 3-1, 3-0 fashion because Thieves haven't looked very good recently, and Optic have looked pretty good. But it's not. It's not the old Thieves. It's new Thieves. I do think that they're going to beat Minnesota, but I think they lose this one. I'm going to go that it goes on map 5, though. I think new honeymoon team comes out strong. They look very good. I just have a hard time picking them over Optic because Optic has looked very good. I mean, against everybody but Faze recently, they've looked dominant. Against many of the other teams, they looked great at the major. They could have beat Ultra, and then the one team they just got smoked by was Faze. But Thieves got smoked by Faze as well, so they're kind of in the same boat. I think Thieves are going to need a little bit more time to gel. I do think this is going to be the best Thieves roster we've seen all year, maybe besides maybe the peak with that Draza, Venom, Tej, and Kenny roster. I do think they're just going to get a little bit more structure on the map while also being able to play a little more free and fast. I think it's going to be a good hybrid between the Slasher system and the system without Slasher. I think they're going to find a good happy medium now. I think that's going to make them nasty, but I think it'll take until that extra week of practice till the major. And I think I'm going to maybe, depending on where they are in the bracket, I think I might be picking a big Thieves run, depending on how they look this week. But I think it's going to take them a little time. Maybe it's only a week before they're ready to beat a team like Optic. That's how close I think they're going to be, though. I think they're going to be right there, maybe around 10, maybe even around 11 in the map 5, but Optic finds a way to clutch up. But I think it's just going to take Thieves that extra week or two before the major to really get their skills honed down. And maybe they come out this week and they go 0-2 and I'm completely wrong. But I think it's going to take Thieves that little bit of extra time to be able to beat teams in that top 4 like Optic, Subliners, Ultra, and Faze before they're competing to beat those teams. I think it's going to take them a little time, so I think they're going to be very close, but not be able to get it done versus Optic. So there you have it. Obviously, we covered the whole Huke video. We covered the LA Thieves roster change, and we covered the predictions for this week. One thing before I kind of do the little outro here that I never have planned, really, I just kind of wing it. One thing I want to talk about, obviously, with the whole substance abuse thing and mental health struggles, you can follow me on Twitter. Link is in the description. And my DMs are always open. If you're going through a tough time, some kind of substance abuse, or obviously, I mean, I'm not an expert on that. I could try to help find you some help or something with it, but if you're ever going through a tough time, a mental health thing, you're just feeling a little bit down, you just need somebody to talk to, my DMs are open. I'll always talk to you. You're bored, want to talk some COD, you can DM me. You want to talk some sports, I watch football, baseball, basketball, pretty religiously. Soccer, I like to follow a little bit, but I'm not huge into it, so I probably won't be able to have a great conversation with you that you're looking for. Hockey either, I know I'm from that area where people play hockey, but I don't know anything about it really. But I mean, if you're ever struggling with anything, my DMs are open. Obviously, we're all in this life, everything together. So, I mean, yeah, if you're struggling with something, just know, even though you might not know me personally, I mean, if you just feel like you need to vent to somebody, my DMs are always open. You can always message me about it. It's a serious issue that everybody's got to support everybody on it. So, obviously, you need help. My ears open, my DMs are open. And that's obviously the best way to contact me. So, the link is in the description. If you want to drop a follow there, or you just want to DM me, you don't even have to drop a follow. It's whatever. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. I really enjoyed the talks in this video, the serious ones and the more fun talking about COD ones. But please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed. I would really appreciate it. We might have some surprises. Some people that are listening might know what's coming, but we may have some surprises coming within the next month or so to the podcast, and maybe some additions, potentially a guest or something. We'll see. But yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.